Chapter 5. Pastor Jeremiah Anderson presided over her funeral in Kansas City. He told her family not to weep, that Amanda had found peace. He made it a point to tell how he had tried to help her in her struggles with her personal demons, but that he had failed. I watched them take her body to the place she grew up in to be buried in Stoll Cemetery. I watched from the trees as they shoveled dirt on her casket. Her parents and brothers were devastated. I was numb. For days afterwards, I flew from place to place, my mind in constant motion, swirling in a huge flock of birds over the university, away to the church, over the city again, coming again and again to rest in the trees overlooking the river where they found her. For days I flew, never landing for more than a few moments, my birds screeching for me. Why? Why had this happened? Could I have stopped it? Who was responsible? In turns, I was angry at myself, at Jeremiah, at Amanda, at the thought form, at God who had created these ridiculous beings called humans. 2 weeks later, I returned home. The front door was unlocked. All the lights were on. Gabe was sitting on the sofa with Kitty on his lap and a cup of coffee in his hand. "Glad you came back, Ray. I fed the cats while you were gone," he said in his most calming and understanding voice. "Mike will be here soon. And some others. I asked them to wait until you had a moment to freshen up. I know you've been through a lot. I made coffee. There's a cup on the coffee table I'd poured just for you." I dropped onto the sofa and picked up the mug from its spot on the table. He was right. It was still hot. Gabe had always been a stand-up guy. "When you're done with that, you need to take a shower and change your clothes. I know you might be hungry. I went through and the takeout menus in your kitchen. Spicy food seems to help during times like these. I'll get you some Mexican food from down the street." He left, presumably to get the takeout, and I spent a long time staring into my reflection in the blackness of my coffee cup. Somehow, when I took my first sip, it was still the perfect temperature. Kitty was rubbing up against my arms, demanding to be petted. I did, and she started purring. I finished the coffee and reluctantly put her down before heading to the shower. The warm water felt good. A week of flying in the dead of winter had chilled me to the core of my being. I could hear Gabe coming in again as I dressed in clean clothes and combed my hair. When I came back to the sanctuary, he had set out a feast: fried tacos, pork tamales, cheese and onion enchiladas, sopa, and black beans. My stomach growled. "Eat, Ray. You need it," Gabe said. "Mind if I join you? The lady down the street made this was a delightful woman. She makes the tortillas herself." I nodded as I sat down and stuffed my face with tacos and salsa. Gabe took a bite and sighed. "It's been a long time since I've eaten anything. I need to remember to stop working once in a while and enjoy life. Remind me, Ray." I just kept shoveling food in my mouth as he kept talking. "Ray, look, I know Amanda's suicide has hit you pretty hard, and what is going to happen tonight might not make it any easier. But this has to be done. In a few minutes, Mike and the sisters are going to come in here and want to talk about some pretty sensitive stuff. You just need to answer truthfully and keep an open mind. We haven't come across a situation like this one since... I don't know we've ever come across a situation like this. Finish up, they're coming. Oh dear, we need more chairs." Gabe shot out of his armchair and out of the room to find some more seats. I shoved the last bite of enchilada in my mouth and took a swig of coffee. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a swirl of bright lights in front of the altar. I turned to see Mike walking out of a door that hadn't been there before. He held the door open and bowed as 3 other figures came into the room. They were female in shape, but their forms shifted from young to old, sometimes simultaneously, sometimes individually. But the change was constant. One carried a ball of yarn, another a pair of knitting needles, and the last a pair of scissors. The Fates. And behind them, another more familiar form. Amanda. She was bound in shadowy chains of smoke, manacles around her wrists and ankles, a gag in her mouth, blindfolded. I stood up, taking several running steps towards her, but when I neared the altar, Mike caught my arm and held me back. I could feel the heat coming from the sheathed sword at his back. Raven. No. She has no knowledge of where she is. She cannot even hear or see you. She barely exists. If you want to help her, go back to your seat, sit down, and listen to the sisters, said Mike. Dear ladies, please sit. The sisters made their way slowly to the couch I had just vacated. I still stood staring at Amanda's ghost, which remained standing just outside the door. She was here, but not here. It was almost like looking at a corpse. She cast no shadow. Mike, what happened to the tulpa? I asked. It's just beyond the gate, watching her. It won't come in while I'm with her, but it is always watching her, and the chains she wears bind her to it and keep her soul from moving on. Trust me, it cannot hurt her while she is here with us. Please, Raven. Come sit down, said Mike, escorting me off the dais and towards the chairs Gabe had placed next to the couch where the old young women sat. I positioned myself so that I could see Amanda and still see the rest of the gathering. I had only heard of the Fates before. Their tools lay on the coffee table, which Gabe had so efficiently cleared of our takeout dinners. He offered them some pan dulce I assumed he had picked up from the Mexican bakery down the street. I just kept staring at Amanda, or what used to be Amanda, and the shadow form I could see flitting around behind the gate. The Fates helped themselves to the sweetbreads while Gabe made the introductions. I would like to introduce the assigned judge for the district, Raven. He has served faithfully in this capacity since the moment the first human set foot on this continent. Raven, I would like to introduce you to the sisters, the three Fates, who set each human's life's purpose and destiny in motion. You all know me, and Mike, and our other guest, Amanda. Mike had taken his place standing next to Gabe. Physically, they were opposites in appearance. Where Gabe was blond and pale with delicate features, Mike was black, bald, muscular, and tattooed. In hindsight, I was thankful he hadn't decided to sit in any of the chairs. The sword he had on his back had a way of charring whatever it touched. I looked back at Amanda, alone and chained next to the altar. I didn't realize I had been distracted until I heard Gabe clear his throat. I turned my attention back to my unbidden guests. We have many names, Judge, said the middle sister, while the others finished their sweetbread. Clotho, Lachesis, Atropos, said the one on the right. Nona, Decima, Morta, said the one on the left. Uror, Veronde, Scold, said the one in the middle. We are the Spider Grandmother, we are the Laume, and we have many other names. Call us what you will. We are the ones who weave the lives of the humans, and we are the ones who cut the threads of life. We sisters guard the choices of each soul before they are set upon the earth. The archangels tell us you do the same on this plane. Is this true, Judge? They said in unison, forms shifting and changing before my eyes. Yes, ladies, this is true, I answered. Then we have a problem, Judge Raven. All three stared me down. I spun this child's thread with her before she came to this plane, said the first. I wove the life of this child into the tapestry, and the child consented to her place, said the second. I cut the length of the thread, said the third, but the thread is dangling, not cut by my blade. The thread is unwoven, said the second. The tapestry has a hole where the thread should be. The thread has been frayed, said the first, but it was spun before her life and began as a strong cord. Her choice, her role, her destiny has been taken from her, her thread tangled beyond our ken, they said in unison. I looked back at Amanda's smoky form and the gate from which a darker shade lurked. She stood still, gagged, bound, hair swirling like it was caught in a wind only she could feel. This was not what she had chosen. It couldn't have been. Her free will had been leached away from her, turning her against herself. This was the reason I had felt the wrath that day at the church. This was abomination. How am I to help, ladies? Her will was taken from her by another human. I hold no jurisdiction in this matter. I have no authority. The archangels made it expressly clear when I tried to intervene before her life's cord was cut. I looked from Gabe to Mike. Gabe smiled apologetically. Mike didn't even blink. We were wrong, said Gabe. At times, policies and procedures get in way of the true good. It is difficult to see beyond them at times. I should have believed you when you said you had experienced the wrath, Ray. Yes, Raven, please accept our apologies. All of our resources are at your disposal, added Mike. Do I then have a special jurisdiction in this case? I asked. Yes, said Mike. Full authority of heaven, carte blanche access to everything we have. You do realize that hell tried to file a complaint previously implicating one of your employees in this mess, Mike. I looked for any reaction from him, but his face remained stoic. An angel named Jaziel. They feel he has been directly interfering in the choices humans are making here in the metro. Yes, I will have his files sent directly to you. And you also have these, which I had seized by the initial damage control crew. He put his hand on a pile of notebooks on the coffee table that I had strangely not noticed were there before. I picked up one and started thumbing through it, page after page of Amanda's scribbled handwriting. Her journals? I asked. Yes, he answered. Sisters, what of the life threads of the preacher Jeremiah Anderson? I asked. The records contained in the tapestry are only seen by the ones who spin, weave, and cut, and those souls who return again and again to this life, Judge, said the first. But we can tell you this, said the second. His cord is stronger than when it was spun. And around it the tapestry has faded, and where his thread touches, the tapestry frays, said the third. More than this we cannot say, for the tapestry is only in its beginning stages and a full picture has yet to emerge, but it is not the picture that was chosen by any of the threads. They were all talking now, one over the other, finishing and blending their voices together, even as their forms shifted in front of my eyes. We must take our leave of you now, Judge Raven. Serve your purpose and untangle the thread so that we may begin to weave it again. They reached for their tools and stood up together, the youngest, at the moment, assisting the elder. Mike took a step towards the altar along with the sisters, his face as stoic as always. Gabe hung back, petting Kitty. When they reached the door, Mike took a hold of Amanda's elbow and turned back to me. Raven, she will be watched over by one of my best soldiers at all times. He will keep the shade away. Find the one who did this. If it is one of mine, so be it. I will help you take him to hell. Thank you, Mike, I said, and they were gone. When I turned around, Gabe had 2 beers in his hands. Prohibition is over, Ray. I know I could use a beer. Yeah, me too. I fell onto the couch, staring at the place where Amanda's wraith had stood moments before. The sadness started to overcome me. I started sobbing. Gabe did what any good friend would do in his situation. He sat quietly, finished his beer, and faded out of existence.